Welcome, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are here for about 3 hours today to get you trained not only in the system itself and how to use some basic features, but really we're excited to actually show you some of the new Common Core content that's coming your way. There's a lot of it that's coming your way as far as the content that we have, item banks, formative assessments, benchmarks, pre-post tests, all those things have been developed with your consortia in mind. And so we're going to get a chance to see some of that today. You're going to get a chance to see some of those assessments. And I can tell you your pre and post tests are ready to roll. So when you're ready to deliver, they are ready to go for all of you. We'll talk about the design of that content as we go through and what was kind of thought about when we said, you know, what type of questions do we want to get started? What do we want to do here on the benchmark? All those different things. But just a short introduction here. My name is Jeremy O'Neill. I am a professional development specialist as well as a project manager of your particular project down here in Louisiana with Measured Progress. Now, has anybody ever heard of Measured Progress?
We've heard the buzzword.
Yeah. Have you ever took, in 2001, you took the LEAP, the iLEAP? Actually, yeah, we used to do statewide assessment for many years, and we still do statewide assessment. Do it over 30 states, and that's really been what we've been doing quite often is just staying at the state level and then also working on alternative testing as well. We've developed a lot of assessments for students with cognitive disabilities throughout the country as well. But one of the things we started to do is start working in districts and schools. What we wanted to do was take our knowledge of assessment and kind of take it down and say, how can we help at schools and school districts build data literacy so that we understand what data is, how to look at it, how to talk about it, what we do with it when we have the data right in front of us, what are our very next steps. And so that's what we've been doing all over the country. And my role is to kind of help build your data literacy along here. This will not be the last time you see me. This is just our first time. This is kind of a partnership that we believe in with our Louisiana district. So you're going to see me quite often. There's going to be users conferences and everything like that, and we're going to walk you through. I promise you get my real phone number by the end of the day. I've met people, so I like you so much. I'll give you my real phone number, real contact, that if you need anything, hey, I'm going back to my school, I'm training, can you tell me what you did here? Can you tell me what you did here? Just contact me. I'd be happy to walk you through whatever it is. You're also going to see that we have a ton of help desk support as well, so you can always call our help desk at any time there in California. Now, the only thing I ask is that you do realize I'm from the other LA in Los Angeles, and there's a 2-hour time difference. And I'm up very, very early, but I'm not up that early, right? So just know that there's a little time difference when you call me there. But I've been up pretty early these days, so I'll be there to answer any phone calls you may have. And please feel free to call at night as well, okay? And you can quote me because this is all being filmed right now, and it's there. So please use my number as we go through here. So, what do we do with the consortiums right now? We work with both consortiums very closely, consortiums, Smarter Balance and PARC, which Louisiana is a part of. Much of our content has actually been designed around PARC level type items. So when you see your content today, you're going to see many PARC items that we can start delivering right now. Now, the one thing people ask for a lot of times is, they'll come to us and say, can you just build something that's going to look like that summative PARC test in 1415. That's exactly what we want. Build it exactly like that, with all the rigor and everything else. And a lot of times we turn those folks down. And the reason we turn those folks down is because we're learning brand new standards, we're learning brand new content, and we don't believe the transition starts by giving you an end of unit summative test that's going to be very difficult for students and going to turn them off to testing because, quite frankly, it's going to put us right back in the same position we are with assessment. Where we believe this assessment starts and where we believe this transition starts is actually in the classrooms with all of you. We believe it starts through instruction and not just a bunch of practice tests. We believe in using items for instructional purposes that can drive what you're doing in the classroom, inform you of what your students know and what they don't know, and kind of help push forward with what you want to do next. And so we're kind of changing a little bit what we think about assessment. We want to get back to more formative processes, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to do a few things to kind of get us established here in the system itself. We'll go do the technology a little bit later, but do me a quick favor, look to your left and look to your right. That is your technology buddy. Feel free to move at this point in time. You can't move after we get started. All right, everybody's feeling good with their technology, buddy? Fantastic. Yes, right. You strategically sat there. I love that. I love that. All right, that's what you're going to want to remember at the schools. Make sure we have technology buddies when we go out online here. Everything I'm going to do today, obviously being on video as well, but everything I'm going to do today, I'm going to have quick start guides for you. I will make sure in the last half hour or so that we all sit together and design what you want to do for your day when you go back and share. And I'm going to give you so much today. I'm going to overwhelm you with so much. You do not have to go back and give all this information. We'll do it in modules. Chunk by chunk is the way we want to do it. And really, the system is nice to look at, and it's got a lot of pretty reports, but it's nice to look at in pretty reports when it's your actual data. So that's what we want to make sure. Let's get some data in there first before we start sharing with people kind of the big picture as we go along here. There'll be some decisions that need to be made by you guys at schools, and I'll work with Cindy as well at the district level here to make sure you guys are set and everybody's kind of clear with what we're doing and how we're going to move through it, okay? A little bit, I'm a teacher. A little bit about me, I'm a teacher, and I believe in engagement. So I'm going to ask you to have conversations with me back and forth. We've got to have these tough kind of conversations about data and assessment. You know, the whole one, does a pacing guide drive me, or does actually what students know and don't know drive what I do? Who knows? Well, let's talk about it, all right? So let's frame our thinking a little bit. First thing I need to know about the tool itself, data-wise, and the content. All the things that we bring. It's a knowledge building tool, everyone, okay? It can't be another thing on our plate. It's got to be a tool. It's got to be a tool to kind of make life easier, and that's what we're kind of here to do, is make your life easier as you transition into Common Core. So the first thing we do with the knowledge building tool, it's going to build your knowledge in two ways. One, it's going to tell you what your students know and what they don't know, okay? It's going to tell you what they know and what they don't know. It's also going to be a knowledge building tool for all of you. We don't believe in just providing you a system that you just click on and you get reports. What we want to do is build your data literacy, your professional development around data literacy, because right now is an opportunity. It's an incredible year. It's kind of this what we call a squishy year, this transition year, where we have an opportunity to do some things in the classroom to start building our data literacy, where our PLCs and our conversations and our data teams can be much different than they've been before, because we're really looking at more of an instructional standpoint rather than all this summative. We really want to get into the instruction with that. And so what does that mean? How do we build our data literacy? How do we talk around certain reports? How do I look at a distractor rationale and know exactly what to do? That's really what we're going to focus in on. So it's a knowledge building tool. Everybody seen this concept before? Okay. I've been around for a while. I know how many years it's been around. This concept's been around for a long time. Does this get practiced though? What we hope, right? I mean, we want it to be this way, but what generally, drives our decision making? What drives our decision making? Pacing guides, textbooks, curriculums, those types of things are driving what we do. Well, here's what's going to be different about the Common Core. The beauty of the Common Core is those standards can drive what we do, and it gives us a lot of freedom. It's going to bring the art back in teaching quite a bit. But if we understand the complexities of those standards, the depth of knowledge, rigor 1, and what it looks like at level 4, if we understand that and can identify it in the classroom, the data is going to drive our decision making. And that concept of differentiation that we all know and that we've talked about before is going to be huge here. Okay, these standards will bring out differentiation very much so right up front. It's going to tell you you're at a level 1 with this particular standard, you're at level 2. So what does that look like? How do I handle that in the classroom? And some of our data is going to drive some of that discussion with you guys as well. Okay? So data-driven decision making. And all those textbooks and things like that, those will be the resources and tools they were meant to be, right? I don't know a math teacher, and maybe you guys can tell me. I know I have a math group over here, but I don't know a math teacher that teaches chapters 1 through 20 straight. We teach on what they know. We teach on what they don't know. That's what we're kind of looking at. Driving it through data is going to be key. This is going to be crucial. This idea of a team approach. When we talk about a team approach, what we're talking about here is you can't do data in isolation. It has to be a team approach. We have to be open with our data. We have to share our data. We need to put it out there. We need to talk about it and say, you know what? This is the evidence that's presenting itself right now, okay? A lot of times it's a little bit hard, and we're going to talk about another concept of why that's so hard, but we have to have a team approach to this data, and we have to have a school approach. So when I talk about team approach, when I teach algebra, I'm not only teaching the kids that I work with in algebra, I'm teaching every kid that takes algebra in our particular school. When I teach English 1, I'm not just teaching my class and my roster with English 1, I'm responsible for every student comes into English 1. So I need to work with every teacher with my department to make sure we have the same approach to really looking at data, modifying and adjusting instruction. It's a crucial, crucial piece. We can't do this alone anymore. We've done it too far in isolation, way too much. Fourth one, everyone, is this idea, student need, learner-centered problem. Your ultimate goal is this. You want to be able to look at data, no matter what kind of data, whether it be formative or summative, and your goal is to identify exactly what that need is. And we don't want you leaving a session, PLC or a data team or anything like that saying, you know what, that standard's a need. Nope, that standard's not a need. What within that standard are they struggling with? What within being able to identify a theme are they struggling with? What within fractions? Is it something procedural with fractions or is it conceptual with fractions? We need to get more specific about the needs we're going to be working with. That way we can address exactly what it is students have issues with or struggling with. Okay? So we have to identify that problem. You're going to have content and technology that's going to allow you to do that. This is always a good thought, right? This is always a really good thought at the beginning of your progress monitoring. But then what happens? The second day of school happens. And it becomes really, really hard, okay? Because you have a lot on your plates. We're dealing with human beings in those classrooms, right? They come with many, many different ideas of how that day is going to go for you, right? So we want to make sure we monitor progress on a consistent basis. Your tools and your content are going to allow you to monitor some of that progress. You're going to see where they're at, where they're growing, and where those needs are, and where we need to go instructionally. So we're going to learn to monitor progress today as well. Next one is something you already have at this district, and I'm very, very happy with it. Sense of urgency. We have a lot of districts right now across the country that are waiting for the state to tell them what to do, and they're waiting for the consortium to tell them what to do, waiting for Park to tell them what to do. The reality is they're going to keep waiting. Got to have a sense of urgency about this transition. Our goal is to get ready for 14-15 when the students do take an online test. Okay? How can we help and transition them right now in the classroom? What does it look like this year? Okay? This year I can tell you with your Common Core, you've probably already felt it being in the classroom. It's different. We're thinking instructionally different. Okay? This is that year to kind of figure it out together and get it all aligned to make sure you're going in the right direction. Okay? And then we're going to do it through classroom instruction. We're not going to do it by giving a summative test. Okay? Sense of urgency. This last one I want you to kind of talk about with one another. How does this concept right here play out when we talk about data and assessment? All right, so I'm going to bring you back up here. So talk to me a little bit about vulnerability. I'm a teacher. I've been on video. I know what my data look like a lot of times. So talk to me a little bit here. Putting data out there is this very scary concept. And we've been good at hiding it for many years in education, in our classrooms, many ways. But we know that's just not the way that can move. We can't move things when it's that way. It's okay to say, you know what? I struggle to teach this. With this group of kids right now, I'm struggling to teach this concept. What are you doing in the classroom in geometry that I'm not doing? What questions are you asking that I may not be asking? And the data can drive a lot of those discussions, but we got to open ourselves. We got to make ourselves a little bit vulnerable to be able to do it. One of the things that we constantly find ourselves in as teachers is we are vulnerable. Automatically it's a reflection of us. We truly believe that. And that's not a bad thing to really think. because we kind of drives what we do. But on another end, your students are vulnerable, very vulnerable this time because it's brand new content to them. They just don't realize it, right? Or care enough to realize it at that point. We're vulnerable at this level, at the teacher level. And I can tell you this, your administrators, they're feeling the same vulnerability, as well as your district folks, because they're vulnerable from what the state sees. Sometimes it's really hard to see that others are vulnerable. So that's really why I talk about that team approach idea, that, hey, we're all vulnerable in this. And the only way we're going to get through it is together by sharing some data, putting it out there and saying, you know what, here's what it is, and here's how I'm doing. And I'll share a little bit of a story with you. Before coming to Measure Progress, I worked in research, and one of the research projects we had going, and we did a bunch of research on what you guys call PLCs. We call them learning teams. And so we would study teams of teachers together, and our goal was to figure out, could a team of teachers come together, study some part of instruction, choose needs, study the instruction itself, and actually raise achievement? Could they be put through a protocol that would allow them to study their teaching? And we did this all over the country, but one place in particular in Los Angeles, we had an elementary school, and in this elementary school, there was it was one of the largest in the country, 7 to 8 first grade teachers alone in this one school. So you can imagine how big this school really was, right? It was gigantic. Well, these teachers would meet 2 to 4 hours a month. So they came together, and what we put them through is actual research protocol. You're going to actually study your teaching as a team in the classroom. We're going to look at the data together. And what we ultimately want you to develop are some hypotheses and findings about your teaching. If I do X, I see it gets this result. Do I keep doing it? Do I modify it? Whatever it may be. So it was a lot more than just sharing lessons. Well, this first grade group, they were studying phonemic awareness. And phonemic awareness, for all you who don't know phonemic awareness, it's just how we hear things, sounds, those types of things. Now, you might seem like, it was an easy 20-minute lesson that they were going to do. But the reality is they deal with the majority of second language learners out there in California. So they came together, they put a lesson together, they went out and they did the lesson, each one did one, and they came back to share their common data. And the facilitator noticed after they shared the results, she had significantly lower results. Well, what they also had to do is facilitators all had to come to a setting at the school with principals, APs, coaches, and because it was research, it was being watched very heavily. So you had superintendents, local superintendents, directors, data coaches, you name it, we actually had it. So they would come and have to share their progress. In first grade fashion, this was a first grade teacher, she got up, had her colorful chart and said, here's the results of my team members, here's my results. And everybody was kind of quiet, and I asked them, I said, well, what did you do at that point? What did you do when you showed your results? And she said, well, I just started asking, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? Because I didn't get the same results. And I thought we'd planned the same lesson. So what's going on here? What questions did you ask? And ultimately, it got into the point where the teachers were modeling it for one another, exactly what they did, what we call go lives. They were modeling the teaching right in front of one another to share how they go through it. And that moment where she shared it, she was very, very vulnerable. But you can see being vulnerable is kind of a really good thing in that way. She was ready to grow as a teacher to say, you know what? I've struggled to teach phonemic awareness right now. How do I do this? And so that's what we're really talking about here, is just putting ourselves out there, being a little bit vulnerable and saying, you know what? You do this really well. What are you doing here? Or, hey, I got some things. I'm finding some things within my data. Let me show you what I think can help you and your data. Whatever it may be. I want you to choose one of these that resonates with you. Just choose one. Tell your neighbor what it is. Just one that resonates. Hold on to it, because here's what you're going to do with it. I'll give you a chance to talk about it first. All right, so I want you to hold on to it because I want you to see where it plays out today. I want you to see where it plays out in the content and our conversations about content, as well as our conversations about the technology. We're going to look for these things as they play out. And our goal, everyone, when I do presentations like this and I do a train the trainer model, my goal is always to model exactly what you can take back, some activities. This is a nice way of introducing all the new content and all the new technology. And the reason being is it kind of sets our mind up to exactly what this tool is and what it can actually do for us. If you just go back and say, click here, log in here, it becomes another thing on the plate of someone else. They don't see it as a tool it can really be. So how do these concepts play out? That's what you're going to look for today. So, we all know this. It's what our standards are built on. These are the key characteristics of the Common Core standards. Go ahead and take a look at those. Now, as you look at those, I want you just with your neighbors, what's resonating? And by resonating, I mean this. What's something that I think, hey, we're doing this pretty well. I have been doing in my classroom. I'm there. I'm working towards this. What's resonating as, you know what? This one's a little bit more difficult. We're just not there yet. As a district, we're not there. In my classroom, we're not there. And then, which one's a little bit scary? So, just your team, go ahead and talk about them. I'll sit with the math group this time.
Demonstrating their knowledge too. It's not just coming up with that answer, it's how you got your answer, how do you know that this is happening? But so do that.
A lot of transfer to multiple situations too. It's not just one area.
And a lot more real world content, because that's a lot of our problem solving. And that's what I know, like in algebra, like showing the graph, looking at the data table, what the equation looks like, it's being able to see all those different multiple representations.
Do you guys know Dan Meyer? Dan Meyer, have you ever seen him, the video?
I went to a pre-AP training this summer, and the Jill Bell had showed us some of the videos, and
All right, so talk to me a little bit, everyone. What are some of these things that are kind of on your mind as far as the standards? It's new content for students and teachers. It's okay to be nervous about this content. It's okay to say, you know what? I'm not sure where I'm going with some of this or what I'm going to do with this. It's all brand new. That's what makes this year great, because it's really a good learning year for all of us to really get our feet wet and dig into these standards and do it the right way, right? Do it the way that we know it was meant to be when we're talking about these new standards. So what are some things that are kind of resonating in your mind here? Just keep in mind, I've been a teacher. I know wait time very well, everyone. I don't ask questions to just ask. So what are some things you see up there, words kind of sticking out?
We said required transfer of understanding to multiple situations. We kind of feel like when you learn something in math, some skill in math, you should be using it. You could possibly be using it in English class, but it's hard for them to understand that, to say that in the real world. And that's just an observation of mine.
Taking something that's a higher level thinking and applying it in different areas.
In the elective classes, in science, anything, science and math, and using what they know, and they don't think of it that way. They're like, oh, I heard it before,
Or
but
from one type of problem to the next, because the word is different.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So that's going to be a shift. It's going to be a major shift of what we're doing there. Okay? That interdisciplinary, and I think it's a crucial piece that we not only do content team meetings this year, but we also do some interdisciplinary meetings this year. We start to figure out what that looks like. How do I help you? What thinking skills are you working with? How are you getting rigor in your classroom? What can it look like in my classroom? And sometimes I can tell you this, when you're looking at your data, if a math teacher's looking at their data, an outside observer like someone in ELA or science or history can look at that data with you, can bring a very unique perspective to that data. Because you're living it, you're in it, but they're outside and they can tell you, this is what the data is telling me. It's a really kind of interesting piece. So you have opportunities for that this year. Good. Others?
We're looking at application of real world tips.
Yeah.
Not just here's some problems, solve it, but actually applying it to a real world situation where the kids can understand where that math or any other skills being used somewhere outside the classroom.
You know, it's interesting. This concept is not new, this idea of real world. And we've always wanted to say, yeah, we are doing it. But sometimes our curriculum and our textbooks and what we have, our resources, limit us in those ways. But now with technology and everything else, access to information, we have a lot of ability to kind of really apply a lot of things to real world. But what does that look like? How's it a little bit different? We talked about, there's a video, Dan Meyer, which if you're a math teacher, I suggest you watch over and over again. He's pretty brilliant in his ability to teach conceptual mathematics and to get kids, without giving them an equation, a formula first, he gets them to want the equation, right? He gets them to want to find, well, geez, I need this, I need this, I need this. So he makes them find it, and it's a really powerful piece. And it's that real world context he does it through. Very powerful. Others? How about demonstrate knowledge? What's that look like in your current assessments?
Writing.
Yeah. Writing, yeah.
Justifying their work.
Justifying. Yeah. Now, what's it look like in your current statewide assessments?
Writing.
It's a lot of it could, yep, you do have some writing yours, but a lot of it's multiple choice, isn't it? A lot of it's multiple choice. And the issue with multiple choice, it's not a bad item type, it's just misused. We try to force it into level 3s of depth of knowledge and people just aren't there yet, okay? So multiple choice is really only good for depth of knowledge 1 and 2. And you guys all know what I'm referring to with depth of knowledge, correct here? Okay, or you guys know Bloom's taxonomy a little bit more? Both? Or you know it all? All right, good. Just want to make sure when I say depth of knowledge, we're going to study it a little bit. That's why I talk about it a little bit. All right, so if this is true about our standards, everyone, it's what our assessments must look like. Now, a little caveat here. When I say the word assessment, people assume because we're from a statewide company that deals with statewide assessments, we're only thinking that in summative assessment. When I'm talking about assessment here, I'm talking about any task that you do on a daily basis, minute by minute, day by day, gathering information on how your kids are doing, what they know and what they don't know. That's what we're talking about, tasks. And that task can take the form of many different things. It could be something with project-based learning. It could be something as simple as writing, reading and writing, and responding in that way. It could look like an assessment item. It could be a multiple choice, exit, slip out the door, whatever it may be. Okay, so that's what we're talking about with assessment. So what I want you to do, just with your partners really quickly, think about your current tasks that you've been planning, that you've been working with this year and previous years. How well are they aligned to these concepts right here of what assessment must be now with the classroom? What the tasks must look like? So as department leaders, you see a lot of different tasks and everything. And you kind of lead, as department leaders and things like that, you guys have conversations about a lot of this stuff. Do you see it being practiced?
That's what I was just saying. I mean, I think we do a lot of this
Good.
already.
I think it's
goes with
the
what
difference
assessments
now compared to what it is how we ask questions, not questions that we ask.
All right, so I'm going to bring you back here. And here's what I want to do. If I asked you right now to define this word rigor, what does rigor mean? How many definitions would I get? The answer to that is how many people are in this room right now, right? This is a great year to truly define what rigor means. Okay? Let's give an example here. Anybody like history, social studies? All right? Okay. All right, here we go. First question, question number 1. Name the, with your elbow partner now. Elbow partner's got to be good here. Name the first 3 presidents of the United States. Go. No phones are out yet. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Question 2. All right, question 1. How do we do, elbow partner? Just kind of thinking here. Question 2. I want you to name the first, you don't have to write them down, I'm just joking. I want you to name the first 30 presidents of the United States. If you know the song, you can do it. So name the first 30. Let's go to question 3. Let's go past that one. Which one of those tasks was more rigorous? Neither of them. They're the same basic recall. Making something rigorous does not mean making it more difficult. It's still knowledge-based simple recall. A lot of times when we look at rigor, we think it's adding more. Okay? I had a lot more added to me when someone said, go do the 35 division problems in this textbook. When I knew the concept after 3 problems, I was good. I was ready to move on. But you've made it harder, you've added more. So we really have to look at depth of knowledge within our tasks. And what are we asking students to do? Is it something that's just more difficult at a very low level? Or is it really more rigorous task where we need to get them to think and go beyond for strategic and extended thinking? It's a crucial piece. So this year, what I challenge all of you to do at your schools is get a common definition of what we mean by rigor. Okay? We've all talked about it before, but really pushing towards a common definition. And it doesn't happen in a 10-minute conversation, in one PD. It happens throughout the year. Define truly, what does rigor mean this year for us? Do we understand that tasks are rigorous? Because if we can start to understand how rigor plays out in our classrooms and what we're doing there, we're going to be able to understand exactly when we look at those assessments, how it's represented in a test question. Okay? It's a big, big piece. All right. Most important here. Kind of stand up here for this one. We have our targets. Where do we generally go as teachers when we have our targets? Instruction or assessment? Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what your heart of hearts. Where do we go usually? I have a target. I have my standard. Where do we go first? Do we design assessment or do we design instruction? Oh, we're teachers. We love instruction, right? We absolutely love instruction. Well, we need to switch that thinking, everyone. What we need to do is start with the assessment task at hand first. That task will determine where we go with our instruction. Now, my wife will tell me, my wife's a first grade teacher, that takes away from my favorite lesson on penguins that I do every single year. Well, it might, and we can modify it, and it might take away some of those lessons that we're normally, naturally doing within our textbooks and our pacing guides and our curriculum. But the reality is, this is what's driving us. It's not the textbook, it's not our lessons that are driving us. These targets are driving us. And we need to know what the task looks like at hand. So if I have a depth of knowledge 1 here, my task needs to be a depth of knowledge 1. Okay? If I have something that's extended thinking, a depth of knowledge 4, like a performance task, or I'm doing some type of project in my classroom, my task has to be at a level 4. And then in turn, my instruction has to be at a level 4. We talked about the questions we ask, the types of questions. Am I asking questions of students that are at higher rigor levels? So there was some research done on questioning and which country's teachers ask the most questions. What do you think? Which country? It's us. It's the United States. But guess what type of question we ask more often than not? Level 1 and level 2 questions. You can't, if this is a level 3 task, continually ask level 1 or 2 questions because it's not getting them to where they actually need to be. So all of this data that gets produced here has to be aligned. Has to be aligned right now, okay? Or else you get skewed data, okay? Just what happens with it. So keep that in mind as we're going through here. And so little things about assessment, everyone. We know we get a lot of information from all types of data, but here's what we know most. And this is what I want you to think about this year. You know, towards the classroom, we get more knowledge about our students than anywhere else. But where's our focus been for many years? Why is it there? Why is it on state assessment? Why is our focus there a lot? Accountability, money, right? I'll tell you, in Los Angeles, they put teachers' names in newspapers with scores all year, okay? At the end of the year, teachers' names get put in there, and it's a value added. Did this teacher add value to the classroom? That's how serious the state level testing is, okay? And it's kind of skewed what we think about assessment, skewed our kids and what they think about assessment. Well, here's what we're going to do right now in this transition to Common Core. We need to get back towards classroom formative. We need to get back towards the engagement with students on a daily basis to gather information. And in this squishy year, this transition year, we absolutely have a chance to do that. So understanding where data comes from is going to be crucial here. We have 4 places where we get data, okay? And you know, a lot of times people can name these things, but they really don't understand the purpose of why we give assessments. So let's start at the bottom here first. That's your state level data. We know the purpose of what it is. It's rankings, it's school, it's money, it's accountability. Is that really good data for you guys as teachers to use? How much time do you spend with it? It's worth about an hour or 2 to look at trends and patterns and move on to better data, okay? State level data reports too high at a summary level. It can't get towards the classroom. So it can tell me something in geometry that I may be struggling with, a strand, whatever it may be. It can tell me that, but it can't tell me specifically what they're dealing with because I can't see the item, I don't know the distractors, and I don't know why they answered the way they answered, okay? So it's too summary level when it comes back. So it's good data for trends and patterns over time, but it's not really great data for you as teachers to sit and say, let's spend 2 to 3 weeks looking at our state data and guide our classroom instruction from there. It just doesn't report low enough. So let's go to better data. So the next set of data is this district level data. Okay, do you take common assessments at the district level? What's that? We're about to, yeah, all right. So this is another source of data. And it's important you understand, and this is going to be crucial when you go back to your schools. It's important you understand why we do this type of assessment. This assessment we do is not for a grade, okay? Common level assessment coming from a district is not for a grade. It's really to look at a snapshot of where we're at. It's to make sure we're in alignment. It's to drive instruction, okay? It could be seen both as summative. Yes, I taught 9 weeks. Here's my test. I see it there. But it also has to be formative. We have to be able to move backwards and say, you know what? Kids struggled with this concept, with the complexity of level 1. I got to go back. So whatever it may be. So use it both as formative and summative in those ways. It's to identify, to look at groups of students. You're going to have a system that's going to break things down by ethnicity, special ed, second language. You name it, we're going to put a bridge in there to break all that data down so you can actually see some of that breakdown of the data. Okay? But it's really gauged to look at our PD, our program needs, supplemental materials if we need those, whatever it may be, adjusting instruction for alignment. That's it. Okay? People put too much accountability into this one though. Okay? We put too